So welcome everyone to the second installment of MHQ Foundation 101 podcast, where I'm joined like every week with a guest in an attempt to not completely make a fool of myself. And what we have been tackling in these podcasts is the multiple ways and angles where foundation can help investors and entrepreneurs in this lovely country of ours and our surrounding. Foundation have had a substantial impact on how high value assets are being structured and restructured domestically and regionally since their inception some 2 years ago. And clearly there is a little bit of education that we think we can give to the market. So this is why we started with the first podcast talking about what is a foundation and how it differs from a company and to an extent from a trust. We will touch on these in more deeply in other podcasts. But today, and by popular demand, I'm joined by Celia Titouni. Good morning, Celia.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. To discuss the hot topic, something that a lot of people have been asking us is, hey, can I do a will? How does a foundation differ from a will? Is there a different type of wills? Do these tools complement each other, substitute each other? So we'll try to go and tackle all this with Celia this morning. So let's start with a question and put that in an ecosystem. When you talk different tools like foundation, wills, trust, what you are talking is about legacy planning. So a simple question to you, Celia, what is legacy planning?
Yes. So just in a few words, legacy planning is the financial governance strategy that prepares you to pass on your wealth and life achievements to the generations to come. So beyond just the basic elements of estate planning, what it aims at is providing and implementing a roadmap in line with the principal's vision for him to be able to tell the next generation how to manage, protect the assets, as well as how he wants them to be passed on. So just some of the key objectives that you may achieve with legacy planning are, of course, asset protection, asset consolidation, but also wealth management, family unity, business continuity, which is a big one, governance, and tax efficiency.
So you mentioned some of the objectives, which I understand very well. So why what is it important to implement legacy planning? What is the downside of not doing so?
Yes. So we know that planning to leave a legacy for your heirs is a complex and difficult topic to be faced. But to be clear, in order to leave a financial legacy, first you need to make sure that there's financial security amassed to amass such legacy. So with the proper legacy planning in place, you can address some of the following risks: political risk, geographical risk, tax, as I said earlier, governance, the death or the incapacity of the principal, but also creditor attacks, which is also a big one, or family disputes. And these are just some of the risks you may address.
Okay, so we see why legacy planning is important. We understand some of the related objectives and some of the risk of not thinking forward. So what are the tools at our disposal in our arsenal?
Yeah, so for a long time in the UAE, we didn't have some of the main tools that were available in the other jurisdictions. But today in the UAE, we have at our disposal foundations, wills, and trusts.
Okay, and when you assess these, when you know that you have these tools, how can you kickstart your process into one or the other, or maybe both? What are the key factors to consider?
Yes, so the main factors that one should consider is the place of residence, the rationale, so why you're trying to do that, what's your end goal, but also your nationality, your marital status, and whether you have children or not, what's your family structure, but also in a country like the UAE, your faith.
I see. So let's dig slightly deeper into this, if you will. What we have done with the help of the team is sort of pre-digest in an easy-to-consume tool, an overview of each and every one of these tools. So let's talk about the one that has been available for the longest in the country, what we defined as a notarial will. So what is a notarial will? And let's talk about what it does and what it doesn't.
Yeah. Sure. So the notarial will is the will in the UAE that you can execute in front of a notary. So this will is open to Muslims as well as non-Muslim. In the case of Muslims, it can only cover up to 1/3 of your estate. If you're non-Muslim, you can cover 100% of your estate without any problem. One of the main advantage of this will is that you can cover guardianship matters. So again, one more difference in terms of Muslim, non-Muslim division is that a non-Muslim would be able to choose an applicable law, that of his nationality, for example, while for a non-Muslim, it will always be Sharia law, so the law of the UAE. And something important to note is that with will, your estate, your assets are still part of your estate, which means that in case of your demise, the assets will go through probate procedure, which is handled by the local courts.
So the probate procedure, let's say I'm a non-Muslim and I register one of these notarial will. In the event of my demise, the process, the procedure will be handled by the local domestic court in Arabic?
Yes.
Yeah, so in Arabic, and as I would imagine, they are not exactly super familiar with, let's say, French, Swiss, German, or whatever laws. So caveat emptor, as we say. One more thing, cost. What are the ballpark figure of registration? Is it a high cost, low cost? And let's talk about the probate as well, because I venture to guess you need to take a counsel there.
Exactly. So the cost of the registration itself is not necessarily very high, but you do have to take into account the cost of the probate procedure. So it's local courts, as you said, you'll need to have a lawyer handle this as well. So that can be not only lengthy, but costly.
Understood. Lengthy? What in your experience could be the shortest?
So I think the shortest would be 3 to 6 months, and that's really optimistic.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if you are a non-Muslim, that's often the time it takes. It's much faster for Muslims or for people that actually choose for Sharia to apply, just to handle some of the low value assets, locally those that are not structured. We'll talk about this later. Okay, so this is the notarial will. Got it. We've seen with the emergence of Abu Dhabi Global Market and the DIFC in particular, financial free zone with a common law framework, the emergence of the DIFC will regime. Can you talk about this and why it has been implemented, the key differences with the notarial will, and who can benefit from its features?
Yes. So the DIFC has created this will for non-Muslims, and that's a very important point. So whether you're resident or not, it doesn't matter, but you need to be non-Muslim. Over the age of 21. So initially, that was restricted to assets located in Dubai and Ras Al Khaimah only. A few months ago, 1 year ago, I believe, the scope has been broadened to assets across the UAE and worldwide as well. Although that being said, there's still little uncertainty as to how the DIFC course will handle matters regarding assets located abroad. So that's one small caveat to be added. In the case of the DIFC will, so the competent courts will be the DIFC courts, so applying common law. So that's a big difference with the UAE will. You can also cover guardianship issues as well here. It allows you to plan your legacy. So as we said, it gives complete testamentary freedom, so you can cover 100% of your assets. But here, still, you will have to go through probate procedure. The assets are still part of your estate.
All right, so clear similarities in pattern between notarial will and DIFC will. Clearly, guardianship and some planning at the top of the agenda, but you still need to go through the pain of probate. We talked about what will can help you achieve. What is that they don't help achieve in terms of planning?
Yes, so three main important points, and you've just touched upon one. So the main one is it's still subject to probate procedure. So that is really something that people should keep in mind. The second thing is that the assets are exposed to third parties attacks, because they are still part of your estate by definition. And maybe the third point to be mentioned is that, as we said, DIFC will is not open to Muslims. So for Muslims in the UAE, if you're looking at the will option, you only have the UAE will, so the notarial will, which will only cover 1/3 of your estate maximum.
Understood. So I took liberty to put on the screen now a comparison between these two wills and foundation on the other side, and you see it popping, all these items that Celia highlighted: asset consolidation, asset protection, privacy, limiting probate. They are not available via wills either way. They are very easily available by a foundation. So it looks to me like people have the choice, or actually the choice of combining both. And we thought appropriate to look at a small example. So here you have your entrepreneur. He has standard assets, a business, possibly some real estate, maybe a bank account, whether here or abroad, doesn't really matter. Two of these assets are so-called high value. They are premium assets like a business or real estate. They are income generating, so they should be protected perhaps a little bit more than, let's say, a car or a bank account with 300,000 dirhams on it. That's reasonably logical. Now, I mentioned the bank account. That's a lower, possibly, value asset here. But if you have $3 million on it, it becomes one of the high value assets. And why do I mention that? Is that it is arguable that the tool should be proportionate to the value of the assets. If you have a high value asset, you may want to invest a little bit more in a better tool. The same for lower value assets. If you need to do a 1 kilometer journey, chances are you'll take a bike. If you do a 100-kilometer journey, you're probably better off in a car. Now, if I look at foundation and what it can bring, remember, a foundation is like a balloon that floats around in perpetuity, looks like a company pretty much, but with no shares. So the entrepreneur can be the founder, he can be the first beneficiary, and he can control that foundation holding structure. And remember, we split between high value assets and lower value ones. This is what we would do typically. We would take the higher value assets, business, real estate, consolidate them onto the foundation, protect them. And for the lower value assets or for guardianship, that's where we would typically have a will in place so that these tools can be combined into one. And if something was to happen to the founder, let's say there is an attack against him, the assets under the foundation will be completely segregated. Now, his asset, what is in his pocket, is exposed. That's something that should be accepted against creditor, divorce, etc. The same thing if something happens to the founder, he could possibly pass away. The foundation will still stay there, holding these assets protected in perpetuity. So you have business continuity, legacy planning, the beneficiaries would kick in, yet there would be no probate for these assets. But for the bank account, this one would be frozen and carved out. So the takeaway here is, and we tried to do it efficiently here, it's actually a combination of both. High value asset, the suggestion is always to consider structuring them, because by doing so, you have asset protection, business continuity, smooth intergenerational planning, whereas the other assets, you can pretty much assess whether it is worth your while, and possibly you could have a will that says, hey, I will cover these assets and I will make the foundation the first beneficiary of that. That is perfectly possible. So let's look at a typical example with you, Celia. So I'm a Muslim. I have minor kids in the jurisdiction, but I also have some high value assets. So everyone is different, but let's say, what are the 3 things that I should look into and do? And what are the 3 things I should look into and be aware of so as not to have issues?
Okay, so here you have it laid out very clearly with the green and the red. So if you're a Muslim, as we said, the only will option that's open to you is the notarial will, locally at least. So that would only cover up to 1/3 of your estate. That's something very important to keep into account, while the foundation will allow you to have 100% of your assets covered. Guardianship, if that's something, if you have minor kids and that's something you're looking to resolve, notarial will help you with that, while the foundation is not a solution for that type of matters. Notarial will, your assets go to probate. That's something that you need to keep in mind and you need to be aware of. So that means that competent courts will be the UAE civil courts. And as we said earlier, that means costly and lengthy procedure. So that's a time during which your assets, potentially bank account or businesses, can be frozen, or at least operations can be held temporarily. Foundation, you do not have this. Assets are removed from your estate. There is no probate procedure. So that means continuity. So that's for Muslims.
So that is the recipe for Muslims. Would my situation be any different if I have more or less the same profile, yet I'm a non-Muslim? What should I look for and what should I pay attention to?
Yes, so slightly different because you have 2 wills options open to you, but in essence, it's pretty much the same. Meaning, if you have minor children, you can still use a will solution. But if your main goal is to protect your assets, then we would advise you to look and explore foundation options. Why? Again, mainly for the probate procedure.
Very clear. This is perhaps as clear as it gets in terms of comparing both tools. So key takeaway, foundation, wills, is one better than the other? No. They are both legacy planning tools, tackling specific objectives. They have a certain amount of overlap, but at heart, they complement each other. And what a smart entrepreneur or investor should do is not focus on the overlaps, but look at what is covered and where. Put a value on this. How important is it for me to cover guardianship? How important is it to me to prevent dilution or attacks against a high value assets that I've been building for years? Say, I have real estate, my business, one of my businesses going down. I want to protect that. I want my family to be able to continue to live in that house. If creditors come knocking at my door, I want to be in a position where I'm not bullied down, but I'm balanced and I can defend myself properly with the peace of mind that these assets are protected. So this is really what it is about. Hopefully we have identified some of the key questions that you viewers, listeners are facing. If you have more, feel free. You can contact Celia or me anytime you want, or the standard MHQ member that you are interacting with. And next week, we'll be back at it, this time exploring how foundation can help structure real estate assets in the UAE. On this note, thank you very much and see you soon for another podcast, Foundation 101.